Get invited to keys with good players. Let's see what they have to say.
Here, in the dense and uncharted wilds of Mythic Plus, time flows differently. The hours stretch long and languid, and for many, it is not the dungeons themselves that prove the most harrowing, but the waiting. Now, observe closely. There, lurking silently in the underbrush, the Retribution Paladin. Statistically, the most common specimen among the DPS herd. With no ability to tank and no capacity to heal, this proud but fragile beast finds himself at the very bottom of the food chain. It is said he cannot read.
What?
Driven by stubborn pride and unyielding optimism, he applies only to the highest keys, those far, far beyond anything he has ever timed. He does not wait with patience. He waits with delusion. Rejected time and again, the Ret Paladin retreats, not into the shadows, but to Reddit, where, in his native habitat, he crafts an elaborate post, a call to arms, a cry for change, and there he waits. Such is life in the group finder, a brutal, beautiful ballet of patience, pride, and rejection.
That sounds a bit dramatic, so I wanted to test if it was true. On March 27th, 2025, I conducted an experiment by recording the eye level and IO of the first 40 applicants of the most popular keystone levels. Now, those are your 2s, 7s, and 10s. And then to keep things consistent, I set my role to tank and only listed Priory. I don't have any tank IO, but I am 3k as a DPS, and that may arguably skew the results, but since applicants would only notice that after they found my key, I'm not concerned. I do think that it helped me get to 40 data points faster, but that's about it. The data was still extremely surprising. The average applicant for a 2 is 636 item level. The average IO for 7s is almost 2k. That means that they've already timed more than half the dungeons in the pool at a 7, and they're still applying. That's brutal. That's why people can't get into keys. And I've seen a lot of buzz about how hard it is to group, but I never have that problem. And I know 5 tricks that will get you out of queue and into keys, and I'm going to explain them all to you in the time that it takes my no IO 624 rogue to fill his key.
It's funny because I recently did a video and I gave them the exact same information that it might take you time to get into the key. Just don't give up. But I shit you not, on my first attempt for the key, they took me in less than 2 minutes. It was really, I was trying to prove a point, and this really didn't help me.
Firstly, your UI will get you into groups. Meet the holy trinity of WoW LFG. WoWOP.io, Raider.io, and Premade Group Filter.
Okay, so I had this one here. So this is on Curse Forge. Let's go ahead and let's get that. It's WoWOPIO. So because I had to redo I had to uninstall the game and everything. So WoWOP.io. And what this is going to do for you is help you really look at the players that are in the key or people that are applying to your key. So just wanted to give you a little bit of that information.
Since millions of people have downloaded the last 2, I'm going to start with the one that most people don't know about, which is WoWP. This is an add-on that skims Warcraft logs for logged keys and lets you quickly see at a glance how a person performs. This is broken down by spec, indicates sample size, and records average performance per bracket. Helpfully, it also compares interrupts and mechanics. This add-on works in conjunction with Raider.io to show you at a glance the relative skill level of applicants for a particular key range. Key log.
Now, Warcraft logs, if you don't know what it is, it should pop up every once in a while on the bottom right side of your screen. If you would like to install it, give it a go and see what it is. The one that I do not like, and this is just my own personal preference, is when you see the one that pops up that says Curse Forge. I don't like using that.
Logs aren't perfect. If you're like me, you only want to see purple or better in raid. Because they are broken up by key level, you want to aim at meeting or exceeding the performance of the average person timing the key. If you are parsing purple, your gear and skill level have exceeded the content you're doing. Go do harder stuff. Again, this isn't gospel. This is just more data for you to use when making a decision. If you have a prop paladin, you probably don't care if that shadow priest never interrupts. Also, if someone has a small sample size of logs, then the data is less reliable. I actually ran the key that I'm filling in the background of this video. I will post the log for this key in the liner notes, and you can laugh at how bad I am at Rogue.
There is another add-on that is coming, and it is about to just light the Mythic Plus world on fire. It's going to make groups so much more harder to get into, because what this is doing, I've looked at two videos that are telling you that, for one, if you make your logs private, they might not take you because they can't see what you've done previously. And others, it has to hit a certain bar before they start recording it. And what it's going to give everyone is a lot more information. You thought Raider.io made the game harder to get a key done. This could be even more toxic, or it could make it more of a tool for those high pushing players.
For the final time, you should never use only one metric to make your decision, whether that's eye level, IO, or their log performance. 500,000 people are already using WowP.io, and they are logging their keys and using this information. You need to be doing the same.
Now, I also heard, and I'm sorry to keep stopping, but I also heard, don't worry about logging anything until you're at that point where you get your Keystone Master and Keystone Hero, and your guy is at a good item level, because you're going to be doing better. So I heard this from Good Shepherd. He said, don't worry about logging the first half of the season. You know, you might have a hard time getting into the keys, running your own keys, but you could still use these tools. What he was just saying, the log part, don't worry about logging unless you're trying to apply to like a higher end guild. But then you're not watching these videos. You already know what you're doing. You already have your friends that are in the same group as you. You know, they all follow the same criteria. They're all doing these things.
Log your keys. There are many guides on how to set up a Warcraft Logs account and log your key, but it truly is as simple as opening an account, downloading the app, starting a log, and then typing /combat log. Everyone knows how Raider.io works, but in case you don't, you should know that your characters are already on it. Unfortunately, many group leaders use the mysterious score curated by this website as the sole criteria for inviting or declining you. Go to their website, log into your account, and please, for the love of the children, please mark your main and claim all of your alts. I am so tired of seeing your 3k alt note when I can see that either it isn't true or you haven't set up Raider.io properly. Don't get declined because of this. It takes you 10 seconds. PGF, or pre-made group filter. 13 million people already use this add-on. You should use it too. It lets you sort and filter for dungeons. It works in conjunction with the built-in search. Blue listings have a friend or guildie in them. Purple listings are ones that you've already been declined from. And also, don't re-queue for groups that won't take you.
Yes, I hear that. I recently had to ask chat, because when I went to Raider.io and I was trying to do exactly what he said, I did not claim my main. So then they said, you need to hit the settings. You know, hit the cogwheel. It's at the bottom or some shit. Hold on, let me hit. I agree. Anyways, you hit the cogwheel and it'll let you claim your character. So I finally have my Rep Pally as my main, and he's looking pretty juicy up there. You know, I've got him to 27, 28. You know, I'm hitting 41. That's because I haven't done any keys today. I was 462 just a couple days ago. I've been raiding for 2 days, trying to get my AOTC. But, you know, I'm on Area 52. At 41, that's not fucking bad. I'm on one of the 2 largest servers on all of WoW. I think the other large one is Illidan. So I'm cranking. I am cranking, and we're only going to get better. So, yeah, we'll do what we can.
It's an act of insanity. They're never going to take you. They didn't take you the first time. You also never want to queue as multi-role. It freaks people out. Most people only play one spec, and they think that other people are the same. It also implies that you play one spec better than the other. You have an off spec, and the group leader assumes that you're queuing with said off spec. It's just the way it is. That's the first secret. Information and filters will let you select better groups, increasing the quality of your applications and thereby decreasing the amount of time that you spend in queue.
One of the things that I also was trying to say, and I think he's going to talk about it, I always try to sign up at key levels or IO level that is the same as my own, within the same 1 to 200, so that, if I need to dumb it down, I can. If I want to try and punch a little bit higher than my pay grade, I could do that as well. I have it in the filter that if it has a pally in there, I don't want to be in that group. I want to look as attractive as I can as an applicant to try and be accepted into the groups that I'm applying for.
All right, now let's go see how my rogue's doing. So we're about a minute and a half in, and so far, not a single person has applied to my key. I know it's pretty unattractive, and I find that this is the point in queue where I start to get a little crazy. And I'm like, oh my god, no one's ever going to apply. And I just need to believe. I need to channel that energy. Someone will come along. All we need is a B-res, really, and there he is. I'm on. My B-res. I don't even look at this guy. I just invite him immediately. I want to establish momentum and get a B-res as soon as possible. I am so happy that this guy applies. All right, okay, let's go back to the video. This leads me to my second trick. Ever heard the saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man a fish and you feed him for a lifetime? Well, the same is true for the meta. Usually the meta is just a fish that's given to you. You go to Raider.io and you see that the top keys are being timed by Vengeance Demon Hunters and you assume that's it, that's the only tank. But what if I told you that the meta isn't real? It's just the best.
I listened to this only because I was driving, but I'm liking the animations. This is really good because I love Morpheus. What happened? No.
Around what you want to play. The meta is determined by group structure and tuning. We can't control tuning, but we can apply to groups where we are a good fit, and that means less time in queue and joining higher quality groups. So here's the second secret, group structure. For example, last season everyone knew Shaman was amazing, grossly overtuned, and Poison Cleansing Totem was so strong they had to nerf it immediately. Shamans also brought Curse Dispel and Lust, which means that it was able to do something that no other class has done in a previous season, and that's dethrone Fire Mage. Similarly, we can see Shadow Priest in Dragonflight was incredibly strong because of Mind Soothe. It also brought PI, which allowed it to double dip Augavoker buffs. The reason these comps exist is because they mesh together their utility into a comprehensive team. But you also want to consider other things, like the kick profile of the group you're applying to. If you're a balanced druid, you aren't getting into a group with a Shadow Priest. And that's even more true in a place like Priory, where there are many important kicks. Maybe you could apply if there was a prop paladin, but you can only queue for so many dungeons at a time, and it'd be foolish for the leader to take you and wait for a specific tank. Worse, it'd be foolish for you to willingly enter that situation, and I think, not to add a third worse here, but you would then be in the position where you probably don't take a prop paladin, you go into the dungeon, you don't have enough kicks, and you have a really bad time. When running your weekly keys, you want to be aware of what dungeon-specific utility your class is good at. If you are a rogue and you just want to farm your 10s for the week, then you should be queuing for Workshop because there's a very desirable and very popular Shroud skip before the final boss. That means you're going to get invited.
I thought they fixed that. I also know that they fixed the Warlock Gate. So one of the only things that works now is the Night Elf Meld that I recently saw in Workshop. I was like, what? So because we had a Vengeance Demon Hunter. What he did is he told us, I'm going to grab all of these guys. We already had count. I'm going to grab all these guys. I'm going to bring down here. You guys run up there and just wait. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he shadow melded and ran up to us. Lost all aggro. I was like, holy, that is cool.
Tuning in the War Within has actually been pretty good.
Yeah, another
true sight. It's easy to subconsciously fall back to the 5-class meta you memorized, but it's lazy, and it's forcing you to sit in queue and doom about how you aren't one of those classes. I put together some example comps. I started with the physical damage comp that is currently breaking the spell cleave meta. I'm calling it Squish Cleave, partly because it's physical damage and partly after the tank at the group who is pioneering it. I iterated on it to show an alternative example that you could also run. You could also run a Resto Druid and a Windwalker and have the same utility, and obviously these iterations are where tuning comes into play. I also crafted 3 more comps that work well together for the 3 most popular quote-unquote off-meta classes, according to Raider.io. Rep Pally,
Shaman is meta,
Havoc
don't
Demon Hunter, and Blood DK. You can and should iterate on these. For example, you might think that the Rep Pally comp should take a Fire Mage instead of the Dev Evoker, and you might just be right. But since we're building around the Rep Paladin, the intellect buff doesn't do anything, and Dev is a better PI target. Here's why this comp works. Firstly, it's going to bring 4 raid buffs, including Mark and Ford, which are the 2
Gate
best
still
buffs
works,
from Plus.
just in a
the
different
Mastery
way.
buff is also highly valued by every non-shaman in the group, and Diva Aura is always going to be good. Secondly, it brings 2 natural battle reses. This is really useful in case, the tank dies. Thirdly, Lust. Fourth, the Shaman kick helps offset the Priest's lack of kick. I see a lot of Shadow Priest builds that don't even take silence anymore. Fifthly, each DPS brings a strong external. Renewing Blaze is super high value for Guardian Druid because it'll dip in its mastery. Bop for bleeds and tricky situations, and of course PI, which the Evoker can use in single target and AoE to great effect. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, the Paladin and Priest bring excellent off-heals. This group is super tanky.
I only off-heal myself. Don't ask me to go off-healing anybody else. Just don't. I ain't got time for that. But I was trying my best to keep myself alive.
This comp is probably a little weak in regard to stops and interrupts, but that's about it. And I have to admit that I'm a little proud of this cook. I think that this is a super viable comp. If you are a Rep Paladin, then you want to prioritize queuing for groups that are being led by classes you synergize with. You are more valuable to these groups, and by increasing the value of your application, you decrease the amount of time you spend in queue, and you end up in better groups. Also, while I'm giving advice to Rep Paladins, press WOG more on your teammates. WOG is going to save you 15 seconds on a timer. Divine Storm saves you 1. All right, I'm not going to do a deep dive into the Havoc or Blood Death Knight cooks that I have up here, but I do want to point out that the Shaman, Warlock, and Mage symbol indicate that you can take any specialization of that class, depending on tuning and who queues. If you want to see more of this kind of content, let me know in the comments and I'll make another video. Now, let's check in on my rogue. The queue has been looking pretty dead, and a Shadow Priest, Pelagon. Unfortunately, Pelagon is never going to get an invite to this key because he does not bring Lust. Inviting him means that I would have to wait for a Resto Shaman or a Prez Evoker. We don't need a Lust to time this 2 Floodgate, but Lust and Battle Res are the 2 most important pillars of group formation, and I'm making a video about it. We each only get 5 applications, and right now, Pelagon is wasting 20% of his search efforts by applying to my group. If he was using PGF and understood group structure, he would be able to see that the group has a rogue and a DK, and he'd be able to deduce that the 3rd DPS slot is going to a Lust class. There's no reason for me to invite him.
Okay.
Welcome to trick number 3. Be hot, date ugly. The ideal candidate is John 3-Chest, who has already 3-chested this key before and will 3-chest this key again. John 3-Chest is only going to queue for a key beneath his skill level for 2 reasons: gear or guilt. Maybe he needs crests, maybe he needs one specific drop, or maybe he's just been asked to carry his friend's little brother. More likely, John 3-Chest is queuing for the latter. If you're going to have the choice to take a Giga Chad and a Rat to your non-title key, you always take the Chad and the Rat. More importantly, these guys are only queuing for 3 types of keys.
Now, that also depends on the key level, right? Did he say that? That only depends on the key level. Like if you're a Chad and you're running lower keys, it might be because you need the crust. That's it. They've made it abundantly clear that we're going to be getting a lot of Valor Stones just by doing everyday content in the game. So, I mean, you could run your delves, you could do your quest, your world quest. You're getting the Valor Stones have not been an issue. It was always the rune crest. So that's been the issue. And the fucking caps. For God's sake, take off the caps.
6s for Hero Track Gear and Runecrest, 7s for Hero Track Gear and Gilded, and 10s for Vault. If you are applying to 6, 7s, and 10s, those are pretty hot keys. You aren't going to stand out there. So this brings me to a little secret I call dating ugly. Everyone wants to go into the key that already has a tank or healer. And because of PGF, many DPS will foolishly sort so that they only find groups that already have one. They think that they will spend less time in queue because when they get picked, the group will finish forming quickly. This is wrong. John 3 Chest is going to apply to that key, and you aren't getting into it. No. For us, we date ugly. We want to be the beacon of faith that shines out of the unending sea of rep paladins. If we apply to less attractive keys, we'll be competing against a smaller pool of applicants for that sweet, sweet invite. It is far better to spend your time waiting in a group that someone else is forming than it is to be actively searching and being denied. Also, walk to the dungeon when you get invited. Don't just wait for the last person to join the group. It's polite, for Pete's sake.
I try that, so I'll fly there, but I won't use, like, I have all my portals. I won't use my portal because you know it, I know it, everybody knows it. They fucking leave. They leave. But as the streamer, I get streamer privilege, so I just wait for them to summon me. But you're not a streamer out there. You're a regular Joe. You know, you're Greg from accounting. You're even lucky to turn on YouTube. You're even lucky to see this video. So walk, fly, get to the dungeon so you can summon me. All right? Just get there. Excuse me, Mr.
Okay, so now we're dating ugly. We need to understand what makes us hot. Obviously, being John 3 Chest isn't an option.
I am fucking regular. You know, the regular Joe or Jane. You know, a lot of true story. Back in the day, the only thing that I used the internet for was for my music, or like they didn't even have, you know, anything like Wikipedia, Reddit. You know, they basically, it was black and white TV. What about Bob? Bob is on the dock. He's not even playing video games.
For everybody. The checklist here is presented in order of importance. If you have experience, put it in the note. Better yet, link your reader.io so they can just see it. If not...
Do you guys do that? Do you ever put a note when you're applying into a group? I'm going to try that. Like, I don't even... When I'm accepting somebody, I don't think that I ever look at their note.
At least mention that you care enough about the character to have enchants. While I don't generally prescribe to the astrology of don't invite that guy from that server, the one...
Dude, my biggest fucking pet peeve. You ask anybody that comes to my stream, that comes into my group, you ask anybody what my biggest pet peeve is, it's about enchants gems. I will literally flame on you to get your shit. You want me to do a dungeon with you. You're not subbed to my channel. You're not gifting subs. You're not donating. I just. But, you know, get your enchants because you want to have a better chance of success on the key, you know, and then you want to go into another group that says, all right, they see no red across the board. You're fully enchanted. No, and I hate when people add notes. I tend to decline them if they add. Well, I do if they ask when making the group.
Superstition that I cling to is enchants.
See, this is a toxic stream, chat. YouTube, stay away from the stream. These guys are all toxic.
I don't have any data on this, but I have a lot of experience with people who don't care enough to enchant their gear, and it usually means they don't care enough to learn the dungeon, watch a video, or read a class guide. These people brick keys. Lastly, my silver bullet is that you should use the note. Most applicants don't, and that's free real estate.
He just put in there pretty please. What the fuck?
This tiny little box is where you get to sell yourself. This is the smart suit you get to put on. This bad boy fancies you up so that you get noticed and you get picked. You want to remind people of why they should take you. And so here are my silver bullet LFG notes. If you don't know what to write in your own note, pause the video here and copy one of these. Or visit the link below to my Google.
Okay, this is the only thing I disagree with. This could be the only thing that I disagree with. I'm not putting shit in there. You look at me, you want to know more, you go and you find me on Radar.io. If you're that worried about me timing your keys, you know, the one thing that I will want to start doing is using the Warcraft logs, especially if they're going to be putting in that new app.
Sheet for this video and copy and paste it from there. Remember, you can always tailor your note to your application. If you see a healer is the one listing a key, then you're going to score extra points if you put in your note that you have your defensive ski bound. Do you know how...
You know what would be kind of funny? I don't know how to do it, but if you did that one Mishima of a penis, this huge penis in your note, and you're like, I'm big dick.
Rare that is for DPS, that healer is going to be overjoyed to take you. Spending a couple hundred gold on jumper cables just so you can put NG B-Res in your note is going to save you a ton of time and queue. If you aren't a B-Res class, it also opens up a fit for you in comps that don't have a B-Res yet. Making your own spot in a group is that easy. I want to also draw your attention to the Druid note. I play Druid, and this is the one that I've used for a very long time. You would be surprised at how often people invite me because I just tell them that I'm willing to be nice.
I can't say shit because this guy's 3K. So, I mean, was that last season? Because I don't know a lot of 3K players right now. So, I'm just curious.
Being nice is free, it takes no effort, and it saves me hours in the queue.
But what if you're
of course,
not
if
nice?
you put something in your note, you're then honor bound to meet that expectation.
Fuck that.
And if you can't rise to the occasion and be nice when someone bricks the key, then you can also just
I'm always
say
nice.
nothing.
I'm always
It takes
nice.
no effort. But Aqual, you said at the beginning that the average person queuing for a 7 has already timed most of the 7s. How can I time my first 7? Or maybe it's your first 11, or 12, or 13. LFG. You need experience to get a job, and you need a job to get experience. If tanks are only applying to keys with healers in them, and healers are only applying to keys with tanks in them, how the hell do you kickstart this LFG machine and make it print IO? Welcome to the fourth secret. You need to group like Gallywix. Let me explain. So the reason Gallywix is such a poorly designed pushover fight is thematic. It was his henchmen and goons that made him. Without the backing of the other cartels, he was nothing. You need to be constantly on the lookout for good players. You need to add them and then message them on your battle.net. I know, it can be scary to message somebody and ask them
I've
if they
been
want to
doing
play.
this more
Most
often.
people want to play the game if they're online. That's what they're doing. They're playing the game. You need to be the CEO. Now, obviously, you've heard a million times, just run your own group. And it isn't that simple, which is why I have included the secrets to forming a group. The first thing you need to do is you need to remember secret number 2. Group structure determines the meta. Focus on the fundamentals and ignore the specifics. You need a B-Res? Take that Guardian Druid.
You guys don't know this already? You know, if you found this video, I think this would be one part you already have cemented. If you're building and running your own key, then you know automatically what you're bringing.
You're not going to wait forever for a VDH. Secondly, fill the DPS slot last. Don't
Now, this is something that I want to practice more of. I like what he says here.
invite 3 DPS immediately. You want John 3 chest to apply. You also want duos to apply. And even if you don't get him, you get to pick the best DPS out of a long...
But he said that, yet he invited 3 DPS. So, I don't
long
get it.
line of DPS. Remember, the most prime DPS are going to apply to a key that already has a tank and healer because winners have options. Thirdly, when you first list your key, you're going to want to invite one person for momentum, preferably a Rep Paladin. Because Rep Paladins have an extremely low skill floor, they are among the safest classes to risk an invite on for your key. They also bring exceptional utility and damage. Now, it would be extremely unethical to then change said AFK Paladin's role to healer, but it wouldn't be a lie.
I was waiting for you fucks to say it. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. I love that it was an arcane mage in the window. 89% of tanks don't apply a group unless it's all they need. Same for healers most of the time.
Wog heals far more than Holy Wog, right? You can always swap him back once a tank signs up. Hey team, post-production Aqual here. My lawyers have informed me that this is actually illegal and you should never do it. I'm not a cop though.
What the fuck does it say? If an actor can achieve net positive results for themselves and community by subverting norms. Yap. What the fuck?
Number 4, you should be just as picky about what tank you take as you are about the DPS you take. If anything, slightly more. Eye level matters more for the tank than anybody else, and healer eye level also matters more than DPS eye level. Importantly, damage doesn't time keys. Defensives do. Understanding the route...
True. Very true. Defensives and kicks.
that the tank is going to take, and having a tank that knows what routes are good means that you stand a much higher chance of timing the key. Be picky about the tank you take. I see a lot of people spending a lot of time, hemming and hawing about DPS because those are the options in front of them. What you need to be thinking about is what tank is good enough to time that key, so that way when a tank applies, you already have a standard in mind. You're not saying, oh, this is the best I could find. You're saying, oh, this meets what I need. 5.
Now, even with that being said, I was attempting 12s yesterday before I ran raid. And we had some picturesque tanks for Operation Floodgate. And they looked great on paper. What happened when we went into the key is that their route was different than a lot of the others that we run with. You need to be flexible, sure. But then the tank was pulling different combinations that made it too hard for the healer to keep up with the amount of damage that a Vengeance Demon Hunter was taking. And then the way they pulled, so they line of sighted the heals, and the heals couldn't operate that way because he got rooted at the same time, then stunned. Next thing you know, it's a broke key. I mean, he's got that whole thing about the key doesn't deplete, so he always has a 12. But you're going to go based off of what you see on the paper. Just expect that when you get in there, it's not going to always pan out still the way that you expect it to.
As you're forming, ask the highest IO group member to hold lead. This will encourage more people to apply to the key.
I do that.
Then, as you're sitting there...
But now I am one of the higher IOs, so therefore I don't really have to worry about that. Tell
them who to invite. Remember, most of the people that signed up to a key don't want to be forming a group. Hell, you don't want to be forming a group either, right?
No, not really. Because, you got a lot of people trying to rely on you. But seeing as I'm streaming for you guys and I bring you guys, I don't mind pushing with you guys. It's always a pleasure to be running with you guys. It's a matter of being able to then fill a group from nothing. When you completely are playing offline and you're not utilizing your friends list, you're really trying to fit the gaps in there. And this is where this kind of knowledge comes into play, because you want to try and look at every available tool that you have so that you could build the best group that is able to succeed for the key that you're trying to attempt. But you just still have to be ready to fail.
Forming a group is hard. Now that you have the tools to form the group, you understand
Jesse.
Group structure better, you aren't lost here.
Hi, Kiweed. Sorry, I saw that.
But it also means that you're going to have to be actively looking at the queue. Remember, you aren't abdicating your responsibilities. You are now the puppet master. You are going to then coach that person who is higher IO
The
to
fuck
invite
are we listening to?
somebody of your choosing to your queue. 6. No one is queuing for your 9 theater pain. Drop it to an 8, 2 chest it, never look back. And 7. Decline people that apply. If you decline someone, that means they can apply to other keys. If those keys are filled, then there are fewer...
Now, this part I never did think of, but he's right. I usually try to just get people out really won't hold for consideration, but...
keys competing with you. You are going to get more applicants because you've denied people. I know, it's tempting to keep them in queue, thinking, oh, well, maybe this guy, if somebody else... Decline them. It's also much easier to see the big fish in a pond without all the gunk in the water. When you have that person that finally applies, that meets the standard that you've set for yourself, that you think is certainly going to time this key, then they will stick out immediately. They aren't going to be buried at this long list. It's polite. It decreases the overall LFG waiting process for the entire
What does that mean, zipper merge? What does this mean?
community. Decline them. You aren't being mean. This is the right thing to do. And lastly, we come across the fifth secret. Let me tell you a story. In Dragonflight Season 3, I met a rogue named Z's. We pushed keys, and we actually found out that we live a 5-minute walk from one another, and we actually shop at the same grocery store. I have never, ever met him in real life. One day, Z's changed my life.
Yeah, these are all Season 1 numbers. Okay.
By introducing me to his Zen mantra. Brick is life. You are going to brick keys. You need to brick the same key many times before you are ready to time it. Bricking keys is the path to timing keys. The brick reveals flaws. The brick teaches. Brick is life. That's it. Those are my 5 secrets. You might be wondering why I've opted for such a terrible clickbait title. Well, as a small content creator, I'm obligated to debase myself before the YouTube algorithm. So if you could drop a like and a subscribe.
No, I wanted to see if you knew what a zipper merge was.
Obscene sentences like 5 tricks you need to abuse to get invited to keys with good players. God, I hate it so much.
It's something else. It's something else. There you have it, everybody. I'll share this in chat. I'll share this in chat.
Breaking keys with Achilles. Breaking keys with Achilles. Double pull.
Was a good song. Was a good song. Was a good video. I liked it.
Such devastation!
All right, let's get into what we're doing, man. Let's get into it.
No, that wasn't me. No, that wasn't me. I am the man. I am the man.